What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So there's a lot of talk about recession. That's obviously what's causing a lot of volatility in the market, especially with CPI data coming out. There is a lot of eyes on all the data as far as a recession. Is it going to happen? But one question that a lot of individuals want to know, will Lucid survive a recession if one was to come? So I'm going to talk about that, some pros, some cons, everything that you need to know coming from an investor standpoint. But before I get into any of that, making sure you guys hit that thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Greatly appreciate that. If you do like my channel and support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that, let's get right to it. So you can see the live ticker to my left at the very bottom. Some abnormalities, just want to point out, we do have a little bit lower volume, so only 8.8 million shares being traded today, and it is almost the market close, so that is a little bit lower in addition to block volume, so less institutions are buying today as well. So usually, if you are one of those individuals like myself that likes to compare data and analysis, usually that does insinuate that a drop may be coming in the short term, because typically in the past, when there has been lower volume, both in general and also the block volume institutions, that does insinuate that they're taking a step back. So again, take that how you see that. I am not a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence at the end of the day. But overall though, there is a lot of fear. You can even see based on the fear and greed index, we are currently at 31. It was a little bit lower previously. It was around 8 a couple of weeks ago, but there is still a lot of fear out there. Even what Tesla came out saying that they are doing a hiring freeze and that hypothetically they may lay off or cut at least 10% of all of its employees. So again, take that how you see that. That usually does insinuate, especially if it happens to Tesla, it's going to have a little bit more of a ripple effect and cause similar actions among other EV companies. So again, that's something that you need to watch. Goldman Sachs did also come out saying that hypothetically they do forecast oil prices getting to $135 a barrel, which is absolutely extremely high. You can see right now the WTI is at 119.95. That's also showing why there's so much fear on the market, because oil is causing a lot of damage to the market, causing a lot more inflation, and especially more so as well, CPI data is actually coming out on Friday, June 10th. So you can see that right there. The forecast on the year over year is 8.3, obviously keeping in line with what it was. And then the month over month, it does show a significant increase. So again, that's something that we need to watch for. So overall though, when it comes down to CPI data, it does look like a lot of people are again comparing charts and previous data and stuff like that. So in the 1970s, obviously you can see mid-70s, we did have a spike, and then it obviously kind of resurged back down. They didn't really necessarily do the correct steps, and then it started to resurge again. A lot of people are assuming that this scenario has happened, especially Morgan Stanley. Even though as bearish as they are, they do say that there is going to be a little bit more of a dip in inflation. So hypothetically, is this going to happen? A lot of people are wondering what's going to happen, because you can see this chart is very bad, to be honest. And obviously we can already tell based on a lot of other stocks out there, if inflation continues at the rate it is, then Feds are going to be forced to increase rates continuously over the next several meetings. Again, that is a little bit more damaging to a lot of growth stocks such as Lucid. Despite them having a sufficient amount of cash on hand on their balance sheet, still won't be enough necessarily over the coming years. So Lucid, out of anything, is a better investment compared to other growth stocks in my opinion. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but based on the balance sheet, and more so as well that they have the big PIF behind them, I don't think that they will fail based on that. The PIF will protect them for a long time. The PIF does have pretty deep pockets. So if a recession was to happen, yes, I think the PIF will cover a sufficient amount, enough so that they won't file bankruptcy. So that's something as well for us to keep in mind. But there is a lot of real fear out there. And even Jim Cramer, I know a lot of individuals don't necessarily like him, but it does kind of coincide with what Goldman Sachs is saying. So like I said, Goldman Sachs is projecting a price of $135 a barrel by mid-2022 or the back half of that. And Jim Cramer did come out saying that it is time to buy the oil dip and that technically you should avoid anything else. So he is clearly anticipating, or foreseeing at least, that inflation is here to stay. But even looking here, in case you guys were a little bit more of a visual individuals, I'm going to show you their basic balance sheet. So total cash equivalents and short-term investments, they have $5.39 billion. So that's, like I said, pretty sufficient to kind of withstand. And over the last several quarterly earnings, they did say that that is sufficient up until the tail end of 2023. So that's very positive. A lot of people are starting to kind of go back and forth what's going to come after 2023. because again, I hope they don't push back gravity because lack of funds or something like that. So as well, that's kind of starting to come around as far as rumors. Total debt, they do have 2.2 billion. Most of that is actually very much low interest, 1.25%, I do believe. So regardless of interest rates going up, they are fairly well balanced. Like I said, they do have a good balance sheet. So at the end of the day, I have already said in the past that Lucid has been being dragged down with other growth stocks that have very bad balance sheets. So they've been being dragged down prematurely when there was very much no real justification to do so. Yes, their production wasn't to par what we were expecting, and still is kind of improving to some degree, but by no means it should be down where other companies have roughly about 10 billion in debt and almost no cash. Those companies definitely do have a sufficient amount of risk, but when it comes down to Lucid, I've always said that they have a fairly good balance sheet. Although they are a little bit more negative on a quarter by quarter basis, it's still fairly good. But in addition to that, there's also the technicals. So the technicals haven't always been necessarily the best lately on Lucid. We have bounced off that $20 mark, which was a very pivotal point that we needed to get over. So right now we do on the stochastic have a little bit more of a deviation. So red line above the black showing a little bit more of a bearish sentiment. Number of buyers today is maintaining itself, so momentum is pretty flat. RSI is pretty flat as well, and looking on the actual chart, we are going to be range bound between the central boiling band and that 50-day moving average, which again is around that $20 mark. So that's ultimately what we are looking forward to in the short term. But again, is Lucid going to survive a recession if one was to happen? Again, I think it's a little bit more of a better question is when would a recession happen? More likely there is going to be a 2023 recession. That's what a lot of consensus is when it comes down to that. So if one was to happen, I do strongly feel that Lucid by 2023 will have their production down pat, ideally at least, and will continue to have a fairly good balance sheet. So yes, ultimately it would affect their reservation numbers and things like that, but at the end of the day, I think at that stage we would, assuming everything goes right and to plan, then most likely I don't feel that any recession would hurt Lucid significantly. Keep in mind though, like I've already said, I'm not a financial advisor, just I am a very big fan of Lucid, and at the end of the day, I think no matter what, regardless if there is or is not a recession, the PIF is going to protect Lucid, as this is one of the biggest investments that they do have. You can even see it's roughly about 60% of their overall portfolio, which is mind-blowing. So they are going to protect Lucid because it is part of their 2030 plan. They have a lot of dependence on Lucid. So again, take that how you see that, regardless of the amount of fear out there, because there could be a lot more damage coming this week, because again, depending on CPI data, because the consensus was that we were peaked and that it should kind of withdraw. But you can see based on the forecast here, it doesn't appear that is what is going to be happening. So take that how you see that. Let me know your thoughts on Lucid in the comments below. If a recession was to happen, do you think that Lucid is going to survive or not? Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Greatly appreciate that. If you like my channel and want to support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. But with that, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.